So we've got a little board gaming mailbag here. Fritz, what games are you playing right now? What board games are you playing right now from the solo perspective? And what are you looking at towards the future? So right now, number one, admittedly, Zombicide Invader. Simply because the Kickstarter landed about a month ago. I'm working my way through the content, having a blast playing it. I mean, it's no secret I'm a big fan of the Zombicide Black Plague franchise, and just to jump to sci-fi and have what I believe is a third level refinement towards the mechanics, huge, really, really huge. And I'm really playing it like crazy because I am going to paint these miniatures, but it's going to take a while on there. And I know once I start, I'm not going to want to play unpainted, even with the expansions. So my plan is to just continue to play it like crazy. We'll bring it out at the club a little bit here and there. And then maybe November, maybe December, just essentially literally shelve it and paint, and see how far we can go on there. Secondary to that, Blackstone Fortress. Blackstone Fortress, making my way through the core again. Escalation, playing a couple of the expansions there. 50-50 working on painting those miniatures a little bit slower than normal on there because I am also playing and making my way through. But I really love Blackstone Fortress from a 40K perspective, from the perspective of the mechanics, from the perspective of truly a Warhammer Quest game. And I love fantasy games, I love dungeon crawl games, but the sci-fi element I find to be so refreshing because you really feel like you're exploring this Blackstone Fortress. You really feel like it's a living place, and you're questing and you're exploring and you're leveling up. I mean, it does everything just well enough. And Games Workshop so far has been supporting it tremendously. I want to say it's maybe on par where Warhammer Quest Fantasy finished up on there, but I'm hoping we'll get another release. I think the holidays will kind of show us what we're going to get, because the holidays for GW is usually launching a new line or continuation of the next release or a big box, so to speak, on there. And we've gotten a lot from Blackstone Fortress. A lot of official support, a lot of unofficial support, a lot of White Dwarf support. I can't complain, but I'm going to see that out, and we're going to finish it to the end. Pathfinder the Adventure card game. Working my way through that second edition, the second edition on there. Now, I love the first edition Rune Lords. My buddy had Mummy's Mask and the Pirate one and a whole bunch of others. We played through that, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like I had to pick it up on there. I felt like, Rune Lords was good. Now we move to second edition, and, the decision is such, okay, you love the first edition, you've invested literally all this coin into it. Do you jump into the second? Because I only had Rune Lords, I'm like, okay, I'm going to invest in the second edition because I really like it, and we're going to push that forward. And this way, I'm on ground zero with expansions. And I have to say, overall, it is a better experience, and it is a better game pushing that through. A couple of slight tweaks here and there in the rules that I'm getting used to. A couple of things that, in my opinion, I see where they were going to try to clarify it, but I don't know if it was necessary, and now it's added on a new layer, a new mechanic on there, but hardly groundbreaking, hardly kind of end-of-the-world type thing on there. But playing that on there. And then, of course, Runebound. But that's not really a fair assessment because Runebound is always hitting the table. I've been playing a little bit of second edition. I've been playing a lot of third edition. I have to say, with third edition, I like the timer. I like more and more. I find myself liking games that have a doom track or a timer. In Runebound, the idea is that the Dragon Lord Margrath is resurrecting the Necromancer Vorakesh, whatever you're playing scenario you're playing, the Spider Queen. Things are happening behind the scenes, and you have X number of turns before it moves into the end game, where you have a final showdown, a final confrontation on there. So you need to make some hard decisions. You need to make about optimization. You can't just go around every quest and power up. you're against a timer. I like that more and more. I also like it from the perspective of it forces the time limit on the game. And I think that's a good thing, because you can't do everything at once. But I know, look, I can sit down, play Runebound solo an hour and a half. If I kick it out with 3 players, I can do it. We can do it in maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours on there. So very interesting, very, very solid on there. Kingdom Death Monster, Dark Souls. So KDM, a buddy of mine, it's not really solo gaming, we're thinking about starting a KDM campaign. It's about this time. Maybe we can wrap it up before the holidays, before the winter holidays on there. There's a slight window to do it. If we're doing it, we're thinking about just both of us running it and having a drop-in of players, over at the store, over at the club, where it's like, hey, we're playing if someone wants to drop in, and kind of push the settlement from that perspective on there. If we do that, I have to figure out ahead of time. And if I do, I guess in true KDM fashion, it'll have to be completely random and roll some dice. Figure out what potential expansions to encounter on there, what to bring in. Usually I leave it open-ended if we're playing at my place, because I've got them literally all on the shelf. And if we make a decision, you just kind of pull it down and incorporate it. But to be able to transport all of them back and forth, absolute impossibility on there. So we're going to kind of figure that out. Dark Souls, I'm waiting. I like Dark Souls, the board game. I like the mechanic for what it does on there. I know it's very polarizing, but now it's into the interesting point where Steamforged, despite literally messing everything possible up, they're finally shipping, I guess, Wave 3, Wave 2.5, Wave 3.5, whatever it is, the bulk of the stuff that was actually promised 3 or 4 years ago on there. So we have the second wave of the mega bosses. We've got the Invader pack. We've got the character pack. We've got some tile sets. I mean, we've got a lot of content for the game that really completes out the Dark Souls universe on there. I'm all in. I want to be all in on that. The problem is, even Miniature Market discounted, you're looking at $60 an expansion on there. And this is coming, if I'm pausing where it's like, wait, $60 for a small box expansion that at tops should be $30? We're like, well, Fritz, Blackstone Fortress. Right, but that's Games Workshop commanding those prices for their content and what they deliver. Plus, I've been conditioned. Years ago, it's like, hey, I bought a new Land Raider. Cost $85. Well, that's a great deal. Oh, Finecast Chaplain to lead my Black Templars? $35 a miniature? Hey, that's great. Games Workshop has spent 20 years of mass brainwashing gamers. Kingdom Death Monster, it's just, not KDM, but Dark Souls is just a board game on there. So I'm really I want to jump back into Dark Souls. I've been waiting for this, but the expansions are just mad expensive. And do I wait till they go on discount, clearance? How long is that really going to be on there? How long is that going to take? Because as far as I can see, the game is not going to be future supported. So at some point it'll hit that. That means it just kind of sits on my shelf. That makes me kind of sad because I really want to play it. But the expansion stuff is almost mandatory. A lot of what ifs on there. So I think I'll just have to park and wait and see. So that's where we are in the moment. And what are you guys playing solo? What's hitting your table as of late?